Hey, good morning. I am Julie Swift with Food Service Women's Alliance, and today we have a special guest who's going to talk about really health and well-being, all things in that area. We have Kristen Wilson, an FWA member who is with Inspire Brands. Kristen, tell us a little bit about what you do and welcome.
Thank you, Julie. My name is Kristen Wilson. I am the Director of Operations Profitability with Inspire Brands. Essentially, the layman's term, we kind of focus on that middle of the P&L, right? Profitability comes a lot in that food and labor line. So the teams that I oversee monitor performance there, and then initiatives that drive improvement, like how can we pull out labor, how can we reduce cost and decrease waste across the different restaurant systems in the Inspire Brands portfolio. So it's great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Um, and just looking forward to the conversation on health and well-being and the journey and my own journey and what that has looked like as I kind of create, you know, what my life is going to be essentially.
Our focus in December is really on health and well-being and the importance of that. And Kristen, that's really solely because of you. And so I really want to talk to you more about that, but I, on purpose, want to give you credit for why we're spending December talking about this.
Awesome. And candidly, that came from a very personal space in understanding as I navigate my own career, early 40s, really trying to understand what I want to be when I grow up. The one thing that reoccurred across my career was when there was opportunities to improve my health, when there were opportunities I was down, push through became the option to me, right? You got to get this done. Well, I don't feel well. Well, push through, because not showing up and not performing in my mind was the biggest detriment to my career and to what I was trying to do at the time, you know. And then as I continued to do that and I watched my body deteriorate, I watched my mental health deteriorate. And you have to sit and you ask yourself, what's the value in all of these things that you're chasing if you're never going to get to them, right? And you're going to spend most of your journey in pain and hurting and not get to them because you're ignoring those things that you need to fuel you. Um, and I think about, and I haven't 100% championed it, right? I don't sit here and say that, I'm perfect, I'm healed, I'm over it, I'm grown, and everything is peaches and puppy dogs. That is not the truth, right? But what I have done is I've created an awareness internally that I can recognize what I feel, when I feel it, and what actions I need to take, right, to get to the other side of it. And getting to the other side of it does not include pushing through anymore. Does that mean, some days I need to show up to work with a headache? Is that push through? Absolutely. Do I need to show up when my leg falls off? Absolutely not. Right. In my career, especially being a woman, and just kind of leading to the history of that. I started in culinary arts. I wanted to be a chef, work through the ranks of the kitchen. It was very male dominant at the time. It is blended now, but it's still essentially a male dominant place, right? So any sign of weakness for a woman is a reason not to move you to the next level. And then I just hit a nerve, right? So, that's where you start to kind of curate that. I have to push through it, right? I have certain things that happen. I have to push through it because my moving forward in that particular industry was not going to be an option if I showed any sign of weakness. Well, as life would have it, my husband and I got married, and the desire to have children. You can't be pregnant in the kitchen. You're not going to be able to perform pregnant in the kitchen. You're not going to be able to be on your feet all those times. And that turned out to be true, but because of my body. And I had ignored other things. I got pregnant with my daughter, left the kitchen, but I had her super early. I had her at 24 weeks gestation, right? In comparison, you're supposed to carry to 40, and I had her at 24 weeks. And I'm very thankful that she's still here with me. She's about to turn 9 in December. And so in a couple of weeks, I have a big 9-year-old from a 24-weeker. But that's just a testament of, I felt like I had to push through. I felt like I had to keep going because I still in my mind had these goals of I want to be this at this age. I want to be that. I want to hold this title. It was never on my to-do list to take care of myself. It was never on my to-do list to listen to what I felt when my body was like, hey, you should sit down for 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes don't cost you as much as completely passing out later on in the day because I didn't listen to myself and just take those few seconds to settle myself. But with that, I left the kitchen and kind of went into the procurement side of food and beverage and hospitality. Had more kids, still wanted to stay close to the food industry, because that's where I had a certain level of comfort. But there's still always this kind of cloud of, you can't show weakness because you're a woman. I moved into finance, another male dominant sector. I don't know what my enjoyment to do with male dominant sectors is, but hey, yeah, I went. Went into finance, still wanted to climb. Um, you know, the people that were ahead of me, the legacy leaders, had been there for several years, 20 and 30 years. They were always, Johnny on the spot. And you had to mirror that to find any level of success. And it got to a point where they would still say no. And that's kind of when one of the light bulbs went off with me. Why am I doing all of this? And I'm still going to get a no. I ignored the signs of my body breaking down. I ignored that I need to spend more time with my kids. I ignored all of these things that make up who I am, and still got to know. And what does that do to me mentally, right? What does that do to how I approach, life in general, right? And that just got me to the point of, especially with the help of therapy and just being honest and introspective, it got me to the point of, what's going to help me sustain this journey, where a no is okay, fine, it's not it, I'll go a different direction. And that meant that I needed to take care of myself and be intentional about it. Earlier in this year, I think it was April of this year, there came another scenario when my health started to decline, and I had to just stop, right? I had to pause and recognize the patterns of things that I was doing that was causing my health to decline, which I always related to work, working 12 hours, ignoring, oh, it's just a little pain. Oh, I'll just take some ibuprofen. Oh, it only hurts a little. And then one day you can barely walk, right? And that seems extreme, but some conditions that we ignore have very extreme side effects if we, ignore them for too long. And that's what the situation that I found myself in April. And so I was down for about, I think, 2 weeks this April, in just, dealing with the health concerns that came in that time. But in that, I was also able to kind of build my own toolkit of how do I navigate? What is it that I need? And what are my, boxes to check when I feel the environment shifting, right? As you could imagine, I working for such a high profile company, and working in profitability, right, can be stressful. We have these initiatives, but essentially we're at the mercy of operators and consumers to kind of reach those goals that we set. But what I have to do is remind myself of who I am constantly. And I have people, thankfully, that remind me of who I am and what I need to do too, as they see me start to kind of slump into those bad practices. And I don't take it, I don't take it with an attitude. I don't take it offensively. I guess when someone that knows me says, I think it's time for a break. You're absolutely right. And I've asked that of them. I have friends that I share the journey with, and I say, when it looks like I'm running off the road, let me know. Okay. And they'll let me know. And sometimes the words or the collection of words that they use aren't the best, but I have to be honest enough with myself just to say, is there some truth here? Right? Is there a moment that I need to pause and I need to take care of myself? And I don't say that in a manner that says that I ignore what everyone else has going on, or I ignore other things that are going on in my life. But it's a moment that I really pause and take inventory on, how do I feel in this moment and how do I address it? It's about sitting still, and no matter how ugly whatever it is comes up in your spirit, acknowledge it, work on it, and pack your bags and move forward, right? That's the one thing we can never do, is sit in it. And allow others to kind of determine the value in our action and inaction. Sorry, right? Because, there are some people, and I work shoulder to shoulder with some women and some directors and men that still believe in, hey, go hard. You can't slack. You have to be the toughest one. You got to be the first one. But I just don't choose to prescribe that in this season. I choose to honor every part of my journey. And that means when I physically don't feel like showing up, is there really something going on? Or is this a mental battle of imposter syndrome showing itself as I just don't feel like it, right? And then, so in that moment, it's like, okay, I'm an imposter. Let's look at this. What has to be true for me to really be an imposter in this moment, right? For me to really not deserve what I've worked so hard for, what has to be true? I would have had to have pulled the wool over the eyes of several people along the way, right? That's one thing that has to be true. I have to be dishonest at my core, which I am not. That has to be true for this imposter thing to be right. So what am I going to carry with me? I'm not carrying with me that I have an integrity that's lacking and I'm dishonest, because I absolutely know that that's not true. So guess what, imposter? You got to slide because you got the wrong person. And I've created like those checklists where I can be honest with myself and ask those questions of, all right, what is this that I feel? What of it is true? And what has to be true if I accept this feeling in this moment?
I love that. I think about, I met you just before that window you described.
Mhm.
And man, on the surface, you look like somebody who had it so together.
Cool as
And
a
you
cucumber.
were truly, and you were so ready to rock and fire. You were just like, tell me when, where, put me in, coach. I'm ready. Like you were all there. I think that when I sit before you today, I think about how much more aware you are and how much more you've leaned into what really is true.
Mhm.
So can you encourage our members by kind of saying, hey, I used to spend, a week in that moment, and now I'm through that moment and already putting good, healthy things in place, a day later? Or what does that look like? The more you flex that muscle and the more you start to come into that authentically,
Mhm.
how does that look and how does that feel? That was April. This is almost December.
Yeah. And I don't want to sound morbid at all, but one reality that I had is that none of us know when the clock ticks, the doors open, and it's a wrap. You up out of here, right? No more human
Mhm.
experience for you. And so, with that knowledge and with my willingness to be introspective and honest with myself, I truly try work to take things a day at a time. And I have this mantra, this saying that I kind of reflect on every night now. And it's just that I'm pleased with my efforts on this day, right? I'm not concerned about what I need to do tomorrow. I'm not concerned about what happened last year. I'm not concerned about what happened last month. Even in this moment when I'm talking to you, I'm only concerned about what I'm doing in this moment. And am I pouring everything that I have in it? And so at the end of the night, when the kids are in bed, my husband's in bed, and we're ready to kind of turn it in and hope for the best for the sunrise to tomorrow, it's like, am I pleased with the effort that I put into today? And that answer is not always yes. Let's be real. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I could have been a bit more patient as a parent, but I store that as a learning as opposed to an affliction of you didn't do something, right? I'm not a bad parent. I'm now having, I'm recognizing an opportunity because this test is going to come again to show up differently. And I'm honoring that space.
Good.
I'm not staying in it. Am I
I
pleased with
love
my
that.
effort? I am. I am indeed. Am I pleased with my effort? I'm not. I should have been more patient with my daughter. Okay. You get it. I understand. She's 9. She's trying to figure this world out. You were 9. You're 40 now and still don't have the world figured out. So imagine how, she must feel. And, childhood is a lot different than when I experienced it. So that's an opportunity to kind of put that on the shelf to grow in the future. But I'm not going to take it to bed with me. I'm going to
Love
honor
it.
the fact that, you know what, I had this to happen. This is what I'll do with it if the time, shows itself, and we're going to move forward.
I love it. Kristen, thank you for joining us today. This is so helpful. We can learn more about an individual journey. It's so powerful. So thank you for being able to lend not only your expertise and knowledge, but I know your true desire to make a difference in this space for women. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I really appreciate it. I just want to encourage women everywhere. Um, be gentle with yourself. We're gentle with everyone else, even as we battle the hierarchies of careers and life. But remember to put your own name on that list.
Perfect way to leave it. Thank you again.
All right.